edit your name on the screen and add whatever council next to your name. In order to participate today, we're asking folks to please use the raise hand feature. And we'll do our best to stack participation in order of folks that raise their hands. If we make a mistake, bear with us. We're doing our best, but use that feature to make it fair for everyone to participate. Also, we ask that you please use our community agreements. We'll show you what those are in just a moment, but just so that we're all working off of the same ground rules in a respectful manner. And then finally, at the end of today's meeting, we'll ask you to complete an evaluation. We want to know how you think today's meeting went and what we can do to improve our future monthly meetings. That's something we always want to strive for. So please take a moment to complete that form that we'll share in the chat towards the end of the program today, or the end of the meeting.
Can you back up from your mic, Ernie?
Yes.
You are a little muffled, Ernie. Folks are saying that.
I'll go slower if that helps.
Joanne's right. You can tell she's in the industry because backing away helps.
Yeah, your mic was a little hot.
Thanks. Lisa, do you mind helping me with the community agreements so folks can hear it better?
I don't mind. Would you like me to read them?
Please.
Alrighty. So if you guys can turn on your camera and show your face so that we can continue to build community. If you can assume that people have good intentions, give folks the benefit of the doubt. Demonstrate respect and appreciation. Refrain from having too many side conversations in the chat, although we all love the chat. Listen intently and step forward and then step back, meaning contribute to the conversation and be sure to let others do the same. Speak concisely and, of course, have fun.
Terrific. And so we'll ask that you please keep these in mind as we participate on the meeting today. Introductions, what you see on the screen are our board members. If you're present, board members, feel free to say hello at this time.
Hello.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Hi. Great to be with you all. Thanks for being here tonight.
Wonderful. And then also we want to make sure that you're aware of our committees and working groups, as well as who the lead contact is for each of those. Don, do you mind reading each of those out loud?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you mind reading those out loud for folks that are participating on their telephones and can't see the screen?
Okay, to read the working groups?
Please.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Committees and working groups. We have the Advocacy Committee with Lorraine Lundquist as the chair. Electric Vehicle Advisory and Working Group, Lisa Hart as the chair. Energy Committee, Dan Cagle as the chair. Sustainability Guidelines for Development Working Group, Sustainability Guidelines for Development Working Group, Philip Gonchev and Lisa Hart. Sustainable Equitable Neighborhoods Working Group, Ernie Hidalgo is the chair there. The Transportation Committee, Nancy Matheson is the chair. Trees Committee, Joanne D'Antonio, chair. Sorry about that, Joanne.
She actually pronounces it D'Antonio. I'll say that so she doesn't have to.
Oh, really? Okay. The apostrophe is not silent, huh?
That's correct.
Joanne D'Antonio. Thank you.
In Italy, my family, which most of it is in Italy, spells it DI. And somehow in the crossing the Atlantic Ocean, it became the apostrophe.
Lost the I, huh? Okay, to finish up, LA's Green New Deal Toolkit Working Group, chaired by Lisa and Ernie. And then the Green Business Program Working Group, Julia J. Posen, Jesselyn Waldron. And that's all I have on this.
Thank you, Don. We'd like to kick off the meeting here by celebrating the 2020 achievements and setting 2021 goals. And so we'll start off by opening this up to our committee chairs and leads who you just heard of, but we'll then open it up to you, the other folks on neighborhood councils, liaisons, and advocates that are out there, just to share whatever 2021 achievements and goals you have around sustainability. We'd all love to share and learn from one another. So let's start with the Advocacy Committee. Lorraine Lundquist, who is not present today, I don't believe, but I think someone else is going to fill in for her stead.
Hi, folks. This is Lisa. This is putting you guys on the spot. I can't see everybody on the call, but since Lorraine isn't with us, would Terry or Miran or someone like to talk about what we've been up to this past year? Or anybody else who I can't see who's on the Advocacy Committee? Okay, maybe it's up to me. All righty. The main thing that I can think of that we achieved this year, which is sort of bittersweet, is a while back we had the City Council had voted to create an Office of Climate Emergency Mobilization, which was really, really exciting. It was an acknowledgement that there's a climate emergency and that we have to do more. And it was really about getting grassroots folks on the ground coming up with solutions to address the climate crisis. And it was very much developed by, the whole concept was developed by organizations that represent frontline communities of color. We had a pandemic which changed so much. And one of the sad things about the pandemic is that we lost the funding for this program. It was cut entirely. It wasn't just cut a little bit, it was eliminated. So we worked, many of you on this call, as far as I can see, worked very hard along with me to help get the funding, at least part of the funding back. And we achieved that. And one of our concerns right now is that despite getting the funding restored, the position for the director of that office has not been filled. So you will be hearing, some of you have been hearing more from us about this, and you will be hearing more from us about this because we've not gotten a clear answer as to what the problem is. That's a big one. And maybe that's big enough. I think that's enough for the moment.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, we'll ask Electric Vehicle Advisory and Working Group achievements and goals, and that's you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. So this is something we got off the ground last year and are really getting into now. Some of you might know, or I know for a fact, many of you know, electric vehicles are actually not as expensive as people think. They are certainly, most people think they are a critical piece to the addressing the climate crisis. We, of course, support many other modes of transportation, including micromobility, bikes, public transit, et cetera, walking. But we're in a very car-dependent city, and in order to move as quickly as possible, electric vehicles are going to have to be part of the solution. Many people have the assumption, which was true a few years ago, that electric vehicles are sort of out of their league. That's really not true anymore, partly because the cost of EVs is going down, also partly because the state of California in particular, and also the federal government, give folks huge incentives to get electric vehicles, which actually frequently make them less expensive than gas-powered cars, particularly because you have no maintenance and no gas. So it truly can be much less expensive to have an EV than a regular car. And we want to make sure people know that. The other thing that's happening is that because of this idea that they're out of our league, it turns out that the wealthier folks are taking advantage of the incentives and the lower income folks are not taking advantage of the incentives. So instead of closing the income gap, we're actually seeing disparities grow. So we really want to make sure that everybody of every income level knows about these options. And we've started doing outreach to communities. Many of you are partnering with us on this, and we'll continue that into this year.
Excellent, thank you. And the website, the webpage for more information is listed there as well. Next, we'll do the Energy Committee. Mr. Dan Cagle, are you available?
I am available for a reasonable fee. My usual consulting fee is a ham sandwich, but tonight it's free. So let's see, the Energy Committee. Our mission is to make energy in LA more sustainable. And our goals are essentially support the city's transition to clean energy in every sector. For instance, electricity, light vehicles, trucks, anything that touches energy, we'd like the city to lead on, even garden tools. And our successes, well, in the last year or two, part of this was before we split off from the Advocacy Committee, which used to be mostly energy for a while. We developed a fact sheet format for that helps communicate community impact statement opportunities clearly. I'm proud of that. Now when there's a council file that we think neighborhood councils should be commenting on, we can throw together a really clear fact sheet, and it's a handy resource for the representative and even for the neighborhood council board members, because you can read it during a noisy, busy board meeting when you haven't read the packet. And we're proud that we helped, I think, nudge the city into increasing the EV charging requirements in a small way. New buildings now have to have 30% of parking spaces. New residential buildings, 30% of parking spaces have to be EV capable, and 10% in commercial, and that's higher than it used to be, and that is in a small part because of support from the neighborhood councils. And we also helped get a council motion to require the city employees retirement system to divest from fossil fuels. We'll see how that goes, but the council motion passed. And I think that we were an effective partner for 350.org and a bunch of other groups who were pushing that. And along the way, I drafted a council motion to divest the city's insurance policies as a part of that collaboration. And Blumenfield liked it so much that he touched it up a little bit and introduced it. And I think that counts as a success. So I think I blathered on quite a bit about goals and successes. On to the next.
Actually, Dan, can you mention Stand LA, please?
Yeah, well, Stand LA is a huge effort by many, many groups to require a 2,500-foot setback from oil production. And, you know, we are trying to do our part to support that. That was actually wildly successful in a way. The city council is now taking it extremely seriously. I forget where it stands exactly, but it's been embraced by a bunch of city council people.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan, for all the work that you've been doing, and along with your committee. The next working group is the Sustainability Guidelines for Development Working Group. And we have Philip Ganshab and Lisa Hart as the contacts there. Philip, are you available? And if not, Lisa, will you help us out with that?
I know Stacy's here, so if Philip isn't here, Stacy can speak to this.
Hi, as part of the working group, we've been putting a lot of effort into finishing up our guidelines, which, having said that, is an oxymoron because it'll be a living document, and we will be making changes as we go on and find more things we can do on developments that is sustainable. There are a lot of ways that this can be used. We're looking forward to starting to do presentations to Plan Check and the alliances. I think that's a better use to roll.
Did we lose Stacy?
I can't hear her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stacy, we missed you for the last bit.
Gardening and producing food, but there are also elements of the design developers to building materials. So scrolling through it when we present it, you'll see a lot of stuff that you can use as a menu to ask your developers for, to guide these developers to providing more amenities and more sustainable features that they might otherwise think of. And we'd like to use it as a bargaining tool, that if they would like approval in our communities, that these are the things that our communities need the most. So that's the brief part of it. We received a lot of feedback in a meeting recently where we were the mayor and we did a breakout group, and we've incorporated a lot of the comments that we received. And of course, as we roll it out, as I said, it's livable and it will change. So as going forward, it's going to remain available for people to provide feedback on about what works and what doesn't work, so we can keep changing it to meet our needs, to meet the Green New Deal.
Wonderful.
Is that the summary, Lisa?
Well, you cut out, so we missed some of the good stuff, but the part we heard was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and thank you for your work on this. And when I think of this, I think of my participation in past planning and land use committees on neighborhood councils. And I envision that this is a great guideline for any neighborhood council planning and land use committee as projects get presented. Do you agree, or how do you think this tool can be used?
Well, you raise a valuable point. The training that Dunn does for our plum chairs is woefully inadequate. It is the basics of how to apply for developments with the city. What this does is goes more into depth to train our plum chairs to look from everything from setbacks to water runoff to building materials to how we shade, how we provide open access, pedestrian access, affordable housing. So with all of these components there, just simply reading the document and using it at your plum committees will help train you to think like a planner and be more successful in meeting the needs of your community, including amenities that your community might not have thought about. As we talk about, multimodality, transportation and pedestrian access and food ability of just don't give us a little green space. How about we can grow the tenants can grow their food. Driving that model of smaller units, and so they can create more units that are affordable. And then, of course, the composition of the developments. The city never trains us about this. Reading this, you will learn about how you situate your building, how it should be designed, what is the emphasis of amenities for your community, landscaping, you name it, it's in this document with lots of links to resources. And if you have it in front of you and you provide it to developers, it's a way to say, hey, what on this document can we come to agreement on first? And it's a way to get development by working together as opposed to being oppositional when developments are coming to your community. So it does a lot of things, and there's a strong component of training plum chairs of how to think about development a little bit differently.
Excellent. We're also launching a sustainable, equitable neighborhoods working group. And the idea here is that what is sustainable and equitable it changes from one neighborhood to the next. Certainly what folks in Hancock Park might see as sustainable and equitable will probably look different than what folks in Watts or Pacoima might think. And that's very true throughout the more than 90 neighborhood councils throughout the city, and more neighborhoods than that throughout the city. And so we want to give folks the opportunity to present ideas about how the city can have more sustainable and equitable neighborhoods. And we're still in the early stages of this, but we're meeting on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. And if you'd like to learn more, please email me. You have my email contact information listed on screen, and we'll share this slide presentation with you afterwards so that all of this information is available to you as long as we have your email address. Next, we have the Transportation Committee, Nancy Matson. And I know Nancy's not here today, but Muriel, I think you were going to share an update for us.
Oh, hi. Yeah, so it's just going to be really brief. We recently had our Transportation Committee meeting on Thursday. We briefly discussed like letter of approval for formation of committee with LAFPD, LAFD, and then also a landing page for the parking cash out video, as well as trying to not expand, but there was like a really helpful video on how to get like to get cash back to like surrender your parking space, and we haven't been able to put it on all the social media platforms, so we're trying to expand that. But yeah, just a little brief update.
And Nancy, our transportation chair, made that video.
Yeah, it's really
something she's super passionate about.
Excellent. Thank you. Next is Joanne with the Trees Committee. And Joanne, I know we're in store for a presentation from you today, but do you want to just take a couple of minutes here? I think you have enough time just for any highlights from 2020 and goals for 2021.
Well, I think our big goal for 2021 is to have much more outreach, because I think that the city needs to hear from a lot more people that care about trees but don't really speak up. And that's, you know, we have many goals, but I think that would be more of a focus. Our presentation does include our achievements, and they'll be interspersed because our achievements really were done in conjunction with other groups like CFAC. So I want to send my time to the program.
Terrific, thank you. Next is LA's Green New Deal Toolkit Working Group. And just to be clear, this is not a political advocacy thing. This is really about implementing sustainability in our neighborhoods. And Lisa, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Sure. Maybe a couple of years ago, I found out from our Los Feliz Neighborhood Council rep that they were looking to implement LA's Green New Deal at the neighborhood council level. And I thought that was such a cool idea that I thought we should all work to get involved in that. And the city liked the idea. So we've been working, many of you on this call have been working with the city to develop, and now we have a toolkit. It's still being translated into Spanish, and we're going to expand it, but we have a pretty good set of action guides that you can get from our website or the city's website for really targeting neighborhood councils, tailored to neighborhood councils to help all of us figure out how to implement the Green New Deal at the local level. And we'll be doing more outreach this year. So stay tuned. And we hope you get involved. We hope you choose something as a neighborhood council to adopt to say that you're implementing.
Yeah. So one of our goals for 2021 will be, as Lisa mentioned, to do much more outreach, and specifically to have a presentation to every neighborhood council, make sure that they're aware that the toolkit exists, and even possibly help organize some trainings to put together actions, and those vary. There's 10 different modules of the toolkit, 10 different activities that the toolkit helps you implement. And so that'll vary across the city. Some folks might be interested in air quality. Others might want to plant trees because they're in an area that doesn't have trees. And so there's a range of activities that can be conducted. We encourage you to please review it. And if you have some interest in helping us do this outreach or organize an event with your neighborhood council, then please reach out to us. Our information is on the screen. And finally, we have the Green Building Program Working Group, and that's led by Julia J. Posen and Jessalyn Waldron, who put in a lot of time in this effort, as well as in putting together the toolkit we just discussed. Are either of them on the call today?
Jessalyn is, and actually it's the Green Business Program, just so you guys know. Jessalyn, we're putting you on the spot. Could you say a little bit about this?
How did I know, Lisa? You were gonna.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Well, maybe it's a little bit my fault, but
yeah, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to talk about it. Hi, everybody. So yeah, Julia, Lisa, and I have been working with the city on a green business program. We've talked about it in a few NCSA meetings already, but just for a little bit of context, our goal and vision is to really empower our neighborhood councils to work with their local businesses that you obviously frequent all the time, and you know the people there, to help them be more sustainable and take advantage of a program that the city has that already has a great list and great what are great opportunities and rewards. And so anyway, so we've kind of been working with the city on that. It is, as Lisa just said, part of the toolkit, so look out for that. And with the pandemic, it's kind of where we are right now in the progress is we actually just did a really cool pilot with CSUN. I should mention that really quick with Lorraine Lundquist. And so that was really cool. She had some of her students kind of pilot and pitch our program to some neighborhood councils to sort of see how our vision is to have ambassadors in each neighborhood councils kind of take the responsibility for these roles in connecting the dots and linking businesses to getting certified to be sustainable. So that just wrapped up, and we are at this point going to sort of reflect on that, and we are pretty much ready to rock and roll with it. But with the pandemic and sensitivity to what businesses are going through, we're not going to obviously jump down their throats with this at the moment right now, but we are anticipating we're going to soft pilot it, maybe with the toolkit that both Ernie and Lisa mentioned. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. If anybody has any questions, we're really excited to get it off the ground.
Thank you, Jessalyn, and for all your time and effort with that as well.
Thank you.
Next is what are your neighborhood council's 2020 achievement and 2021 goals for sustainability? So we'd love to hear from you at this point. Please use the raise hand feature to participate, and let's see if we have any hands up.
There are a lot of hands that were probably raised before this. Do you want us to go to those folks, Ernie?
Yeah, let's if you could help me with that, Lisa. I'm not seeing the hands up on my screen right now. So
okay. There's Dr. Tom Williams.
Okay, Dr. Tom, if you want to chime in now, we'd love to hear from you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello. Yes. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. We didn't know that you existed. Now we do. So 2021 should be a lot better than the nothing that we had last year. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Cord.
Hi. As a number of you know, our neighborhood council is, Westchester Playa, which is the airport, a fairly significant environmental influencer, but our neighborhood council is not terribly friendly. So I've been on the council for a year and a half or so and trying to just ingratiate myself. But I would say one small in support of just promoting electrification in various airport activities, including the rental facility that's going in. So thanks to Dan and Lisa and others for help with that. But yeah, I hope 2021 will bring more.
Somebody had a great question. Ernie, can you stop sharing your screen so that we can see each other?
On Monday, right?
And I might need to mute James. Okay. Sorry, who was next?
Those
Scott,
are assholes, man. I mean, you're probably not assholes, but
Scott, can you go ahead while I'm muting James?
the managers are.
Is Scott Mandel here?
Hi there. Mandel, I'm a stakeholder in Studio City. I'm not on the Studio City Neighborhood Council. Hi, Raduca. My issue is gas-powered leaf blowers. And let me give you a short summary of what I'm up to. And then maybe you can point me to which committee or group my efforts can be sort of coordinated with. I just finished up with the Government Affairs Committee on the Studio City Neighborhood Council. And I pitched a motion which they passed, which is a rewrite of the LA City gas-powered leaf blower ordinance, which is not enforced. It can't be enforced because it's poorly written and it's been on the books since the late 90s. I spoke to 2 city prosecutors, a retired judge, my council member, and the field director, and they all told me the same thing. They can't enforce it. So my first priority was to change a few words in the ordinance so it can and will be enforced. That goes to the board at the next Studio City Neighborhood Council board meeting, which I'm sure they'll approve, after which I'd like to take that that motion that I don't think it's going to be a CIS. I think it'll just be a directive for our council member and bring it to all the other neighborhood councils and whoever will listen, so they all can pitch in and get our city council to get the law amended and enforced. If you guys would like any more information about the horrors of gas-powered two-stroke engines, just let me say everything I've heard you guys speak about tonight. There is nothing that even comes close to what removing one gas-powered blower puts into the air. It's almost 4,000 miles of truck pollution. It's driving from Texas to Alaska in 30 minutes. And it's just from the people I got to quit on my block 5, that's 15,000 miles of truck pollution every week that is no longer in the air. So sort of a one-man wrecking ball in my neighborhood. The gardeners all know me, the neighbors all hate me, and I'm going to keep fighting till I can get this ordinance changed and enforced. So any help I can get from you guys, that would be great. Thanks.
Scott, this is Dan Kegel from Energy. Could you send me a draft of that? And I'd be happy to chat with you and help it along.
Sure.
We're using the raise hand feature. I think I told Scott this would be good for the advocacy committee, but yeah, one of the two. And I'm going to let Laura chime in because Laura has done a ton of work on this.
I'm going to unmute myself. Okay. I was like, oh, I hope Lisa realizes that I'm here.
I did.
So Scott, the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council, or on working with the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council, we just rewrote our local kind of informational one sheet on leaf blowers, and it's on the front page now of the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council website. And Lisa and I and all of the other members of the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council Green Committee would love for everyone on this call to distribute it. It is made to be something that you guys can print out and hand out to your neighbors, hand out to friends. It is brief, but the idea is to help start this conversation about looking beyond leaf blowers, questioning them, and we even touch on some environmental justice and health issues too. So that is a resource that's out there for all of you guys to download. Yeah.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So sorry, I was just texting Adrian, our sustainability committee chair, asking, want me to say anything else? But I'm from Wilshire Center, Koreatown Neighborhood Council. And I would say some of our accomplishments have been creating a sustainability committee, as well as really taking a lead in actively fighting tree removal. And the Board of Public Works now knows me pretty well at this point, and is now also aware of the double-edged sword that plum committees face, where when we get presented with a tree removal, we're told that no, we can't discuss the tree removal. When plums are presented with a development, we are told, no, we can't discuss a tree removal now because it's too early in the process. And then by the time we get told about it the second time, where it gets to the Board of Public Works, we're told you should have done that last year. So we're stuck with no way of actually actively fighting and being involved in these tree removals, besides at the beginning when it's too early and the end when it's too late. We have also supported a tree removal appeal, which the city has completely ignored. Not responded to in any way at all, but we were really hoping that we will, and we were glad that our neighborhood council figured out that neighborhood councils cannot do appeals. We're not allowed to appeal things, but we can support appeals that individuals make. And that was something that I think was really helpful for us to kind of figure out a workaround if anybody else is interested in that. And I would say those are the main ones, but we're fighting for the equity, since we do not have park space, and yet we have more people than any other. We're the most densely populated area outside of Manhattan in the entire nation, and we have no parks, really. So yeah, that's our goal. We want a park.
Thank you.
Not a parklet, a real park.
Yeah, okay, good. That's so, yeah, I mean, and Elizabeth and I have talked about that. Susan.
Me, Susan?
Susan Winsberg. I don't know who said that.
Yeah, hi. I'm the president of the Franklin Corridor Communities. It's a new group that we're fighting tree removals and TOC projects that are taking away setbacks and taking away RSO housing to put up big luxury units, and basically are the scourge of our neighborhoods, and not providing housing at all. Obviously, it's all luxury, so it's just a fake out by developers. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know about us, Franklin Corridor Communities. We're fighting the good fight. We wrote to Councilmember Rue before he lost, and about 6 trees across the street from me that were being removed preemptively without plans even being in place. 6 mature old growth shade trees. Of course, that's the first thing they do, is they wipe out all the trees just without even plans in place. So we fought that, but we lost. Then we also have let Nithya know about it. So far, she has not been responsive, but maybe she's just got a lot on her plate. I don't know. And some of us are in O'Farrell's district. Of course, he's so pro-development that, yeah, they're just taking down trees right and left. But tomorrow night at the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council meeting, there's going to be a ballot measure coming up by Abundant Housing that we personally think is very dangerous. That's going to take away any controls over the TOC process. That's going to make it able to fast track these TOC projects through. And if you want to know more about it or talk about it tomorrow night at the meeting, you can find it on their agenda. So thank you very much for what you're doing. I think it's great. We're happy to be as active as you need us to be.
Thank you. And Ernie, just so you know, there are 3 more hands raised. Should we hear those folks and then move on, do you think?
That's a great idea. Let's go with those 3, and then we'll move forward with the rest of the agenda.
Okay. Liz? Liz, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, on the leaf blowers, it's not just the gas-powered ones, although the gas-powered ones definitely pollute the air with fumes. They need to be banned entirely and replace with vacuums. Particulate matter, fungus, bacterial thing, allergies are blowing into people's faces, both pedestrians and people driving by in the street. I've had multiple eye surgeries because of this. And if gardeners use masks and earmuffs to protect against the noise and dust, why blow it at us? All they do is essentially move leaves and garbage from one property to the next, and the gardener on that property then moves it back again. We should require vacuum mulchers. Anybody can get those at the moment, and there's a benefit to them. And in terms of the trees, fines should be much higher, thousands and thousands of dollars. This will help the city budget and will also make developers really think twice before just going ahead and taking out live oaks and other protected trees.
Thank you, Liz. Miran?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening to everyone. I'm the co-chair of the Sustainability for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. I must say that we were one of the highest neighborhood council. We have submitted CISs 2020, and we are going to continue with that effort because I believe with the CISs and with the follow-up, you will see good results. At the moment in this year, I am going to work through JPL on creating a special policy based on 6 fundamental principles for sustainable building design. And we would like to focus this year on optimize the site potential and optimize energy use and also protect, conserve water and optimize building space and material use and enhance indoor environmental quality. We are also going to work very closely with the DPH to see how we can shut down the Aliso Canyon because that has been a health threat for us. And we would like to bring more green energy to our neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you, Miran. Gwen?
Well, Marana, I'm on the other end of Los Angeles. Porter Ranch is up here. We're down at the dangly end of a long corridor along the 110. We, like Porter Ranch and Playa del Rey, Marina del Rey area, we have a lot of pollution issues. When we talk about particulate matter and pollution, the Port of Los Angeles is here, and it's actually the complex of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And basically all of the rail transport, all of the truck transport and ships, all of us in the Los Angeles basin are impacted greatly by the pollution coming from this area. So as well as refineries. In fact, as soon as I'm done with this meeting, I will be running out to Phillips 66. It's having a big flare up. The factory, the refinery normally gives a notification. There is none. So we're fighting the good fight on a lot of different issues. And I'm hoping to actually connect with some of the other neighborhood councils that have these pollution issues and support them, and then we can support each other in various CIS's motions and other things. So that's our major issue. We have a lot of pollution down here, and I hope everybody does understand that, you know, even truck idling, we're working and battling truck idling. So you know, when you talk about leaf blowers, trucks often still continue to run their engines when the truckers are in there, and they just park everywhere. So, all right, that's about it.
Thank you, Gwen. You know, Gwen and Miran, you both mentioned community impact statements, and a lot of us are well aware of what they are and their importance. But if you're not so familiar with them, make it a point to learn a little bit more about them. It's one of the most effective tools that we have as neighborhood councils to do advocacy directly to our policymakers. And sometimes when council members are new to their neighborhood councils, or when a neighborhood council hasn't been very active, we kind of forget about that. So just, it's a new year. Let's make sure we're using that tool effectively. That being said, I think that wraps up this portion of our meeting. The next portion is going to be our presentation today by Joanne D'Antonio on trees. So Joanne, do you need us to share the screen with you?
I had to undo the option because somebody else was sharing. So let me, okay, I hope it should work for you now, Joanne.
So I thought I was the last person to talk and they missed me, so it's okay.
Okay, Mindy, we can hear you, just so you know.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Okay. Okay. This presentation is actually a work that was a collaboration between myself and Diana Nicole, who is the science advisor to the Trees Committee. I'm the founder and chair of the Trees Committee. I also serve on the Community Forest Advisory Committee for Council District 2. I'm actually the alternate, and but the alternates participate in the same way as regular representatives. The position on CFAC came as a result of working on this Trees Committee, and I founded this Trees Committee almost by accident many years ago at an NCSA forum where we were determining where our passions were, and I realized that tree preservation was mine, and formed this group, and I contacted Diana to work with me on this, and she's stuck with me and taught me a huge amount. She's a not just our science advisor, but she's also a ecological landscape professional. And actually our neighborhood councils hired her to deal with questions about what to do with our adopted medians. So Diana had an accident and she's not going to be on video, but we will be able to hear her, and she's going to be chiming in, and we truly work together on the content of this presentation. Diana, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Okay. She really had a serious accident, so I didn't want to put her through too much on this, but she's going to chime in on some really important parts of this presentation. This is our mission statement for the Trees Committee, and it was written actually with Diana to protect the city's urban forest and promote its care on behalf of the community through advocacy, outreach, and education. So the trees that you see in this presentation, oh, I guess I'm turning the wrong ones here. It's not, let's see, I can't get this to can't get the, oh, there we go. Okay, so there's our names, and there's our mission statement. Okay, now I think we've got this working. Elizabeth will recognize these trees. These are in Koreatown, and we have some statistics. Diana's gonna present these about the percentage of tree canopy that we need. Diana?
Oh, hi there, sorry. So I think what you're referring to, what Joanna's referring to is that there was a study done by a researcher at University of Wisconsin-Madison, Carly Zeider, if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. And what she found, I won't get into because we don't have a lot of time, Joanne, I think you have over 40 slides. But what she found in her research was that we need a 40% or about a 40% tree canopy to get the maximum benefits of cooling. Now, trees offer a lot more benefits than just temperature, but heat is a really big deal. It's a really big deal in the city of Los Angeles, and it's definitely in places where we don't have a lot of green cover and we deal with the urban heat island, and in places like the San Fernando Valley, where it's hotter than other places along the coast. But what she found in that study is that you can get up to 10 degrees cooler with a 40% tree canopy. That makes a real difference, and it can make a difference between life and death in a heat wave. People do die because of heat. There's a whole bunch of other reasons why you want to have a leafy umbrella for your city, but we would have to talk about that at another time because we don't have a lot of time.
I think most of you already know the ecosystem services of trees.
Yeah, most people know about, banking carbon, and that's done through leaves and soil and roots and things like that. But I think the heat, the issue with temperature is a really important one. If we just thought about that alone, that would be reason enough to have a goal of a 40% canopy in the city of LA.
I want you to know that I populated this presentation with pictures of trees that are no more. So these are all, almost all, there's a few that aren't, that I will point out were saved, but I get my tree pictures from from Google Maps when there's a tree removal request. And these trees that are shading the homeless, Elizabeth fought tooth and nail to save, but we all did, and we were not able to save them. So, and even the trees at the very first slide are gone. So you'll see the diminishing urban forest through this presentation. Now, we can get the slide to change. There we go. So this, that site that you just saw is where this teardrop is. That's New Hampshire and 7th Street. And I want you to look at Koreatown. This is from Google Earth. And you can see that there really aren't very many trees. There's no 40% canopy in Koreatown. And there's a couple of best pocket parks, but there's no major park there. And for there to be a 40% canopy, almost half of this picture would have to be green. And as you can see, they're just sporadic trees here. And the ones that we're removing were all of these right here that are gone. So you can say, well, yeah, but they're going to be replanted. Well, they're not going to be replanted with as big a tree. And it's going to take them, maybe 15 years to get, anywhere close to the size of the trees that were removed, those ficus trees that were removed. So let me see, there we go. Okay, so tree canopy is visible one way by zip code on this viewer that, I wanted to put all my links in the chat, and I think I'm gonna have to go out of this presentation view to do it. I have a ton of links to give everybody. Should I do it at the end or should I do it now?
Yes, I think you should do it at the end.
Do it at the end. Okay. All right. So this is an interactive map, and in this particular part of the map that I went to, it had a 16.97% tree canopy. And you can look it up, you can zoom in, zoom out, whatever. It's for LA County. 3 people did this a few years ago. And it's very professionally done and a good way to get a guide as to what canopy is where. I just want you to know that Beverly Hills has an almost 50% tree canopy. Most of LA has about a 20% canopy, and that's not counting environmental justice areas. That's an average. So some places have substantially less than that, and some places have a little bit more.
Joanne, can I chime in for a minute here?
Sure.
Diana, I just, I apologize if this is not a good time to bring this up, Joanne, but I think, we're dealing with a couple facts here. Fact one was the slide Joanne showed, which is this idea that we need a 40% tree canopy in order to get the maximum benefits of cooling. And I think the other important fact is that, what LA's tree canopy is now, it's in the range of 20%, some areas much less than that, some areas a little bit more than that. But I think it's a good opportunity, Joanne, to just bring up the study that was done by USC spatial students, the green cover study. And it showed that there was a decline in tree canopy from 2000 to 2009. And there's no reason, by the way, we know we didn't get better since then. And that decline, they focused on residential neighborhoods. And really the reason for the decline was oversized houses and decreased or increased hardscape. So that means we've not only lost space where trees were, but we've lost permeable spaces to even plant trees. It's a really important study that was done. And for those, maybe Joanne, I don't know if you have this link, but we could get it in there. I think it's important for everyone to access this.
I don't have it on me right now in the list that I made, but
yeah,
yes.
But what it really is talking about is, way back when, and especially going further back into the 1930s, 40s, we had bungalows, 1,200 square foot houses on 5,000 square foot something lots. Now we're seeing 5,000 square foot houses on 5,700 square foot lots. And this is densification, folks. And this is a real problem for green cover, or the lack of green cover. And this is what not only happens with mansionization, it happens with density, it happens with making larger footprint buildings that are being done because of policy is allowing these, us to maximize lots. So we're getting smaller green space and bigger buildings.
And we also have an attitude problem. So this, I'm sorry, the last one. This one is the Google canopy site that the city is using to determine canopy. And I don't know why they're not using Tree Peoples, but this is where I live. And so, okay, there's a lot of green around me, but what happened is that my neighbor took out all his trees, and my backyard neighbor. So this is now probably less green than it shows here. We have just a problem even with our residents of Los Angeles, because they are not very tree conscious. I don't know why this man took out all his trees. To me, it seemed like there was no reason for it. And I hear it all the time. People contact me and say, someone contacted me today and said someone just took out their 100-year-old tree on their property. And we don't have any protections for trees on private property for the most part. So we'll be getting into that. Anyway, this is a tree that was planted in place. This street was full of amazing liquid amber trees planted by the developer in Sherman Oaks, thinking that they would need to be shaded. And there were 70-foot trees removed all up and down this street for the sidewalk repair program. and they're being replaced with African fern pine and crepe myrtles, which don't grow as big. And this is the way the city plants, and this is construction fill that is being used to plant these trees. And Diana's going to talk a little bit about what our problem is with city tree planting. Individuals may do better at it, but this is what the city does.
Yeah, this project, Joanne, is this the Sunny Slope?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was very involved in Sunny Slope. So they took out 70+ foot trees there
14
and
of
replaced them with smaller stature trees. It was a what a difference it made to the street. But the horticultural practices that are used under this planting program, you know, it's not just the fact that they use construction fill, which is problematic for a tree. It's all about good soil. But also you don't see any mulch here or any green cover. That's a problem for water retention and other things. You don't see that there is a proper watering plan. The way they planted this tree is actually, the tree should be above grade, not in a concave bowl. So we have a lot of planting practices that I see in the city where it suggests that we're going to see a high mortality rate on the new trees that are planted. And that's really sad, not only for the future canopy, but it's also a wasteful use of resources. I will also just say that, you know, I mean, I have a whole list, and Joanne, we could probably create a link. I think it's on Treeology of how to have a successful tree planting that goes through all the items, and a lot of the items on there, the not to do the trees doing, like root barriers and things like that. There is science behind this, and unfortunately it's not being used in the city's tree planting programs. But I also want to say that the problem with the planting programs, there's really no accountability for keeping the trees that have been planted. There's no additional, you know, protections. And then there's either inadequate or no plan for watering and caring for the trees, which is why we see high mortality rate. There's been studies of this, not only for this city, but other cities across the nation that have very high mortality rates, 17% up to 56% in some planting programs. And that's why tree planting, or one reason why tree planting is not keeping up with tree decline.
And also the watering plans are usually from 2 to 5 years. And I, having planted a tree 8 years ago, look at it and still say, oh my God, it needs water. So that's another thing, is that our parkways don't have irrigation. So, you know, if you get a tree from City Plants and you plant it correctly and you take care of it, and you commit to that tree, we don't have anything against that kind of planting. But if you know what you're doing, you put the right tree in the right place. But unfortunately, the city planting programs are, I say they're underfunded. Their practices are not set up for really optimum survival of the tree.
Well, yeah, they don't plant them right in the first place, and then they don't care for them afterwards. And I just want to if you don't mind, Joanne, just add to the fact that mature trees need water, young trees need water, all the trees need water. There is no such thing as a tree that doesn't need water unless it's a plastic tree. And you know, this would go under the list for me of, hey, what are some of the things we can do about it? And one of the things we can do is make sure that we have an adequate short and long-term maintenance plan. And maintenance mostly means water. Mulch should be part of that plan because mulch helps keep water in. And we should be, rather than penalizing people for using water, we should be incentivizing people to water their trees. And actually, you know, I always call it tree baits. I think I say this to Joanne.
Actually, Adel Hashkalil is kind of interested in that, and he's been trying to get DWP to do that. Do you know, though, that it only costs $5 a year to water a tree? That's what they determined. Really, there's almost no excuse for
And the energy benefits of watering a mature tree, the benefits you get from watering a mature tree, it far exceeds any amount of dollars you would spend to water it. Right. I mean, just the energy alone that the houses on Sunny Slope are going to have to spend in cooling costs because they lost those big, beautiful shade trees because those trees were not maintained. The reason you have sidewalk tree conflicts is less about the species of the tree than it is about how that tree was maintained. And 99% of that has to do with lack of water.
That's a great point, because if you go to Beverly Hills and you see the ficus trees all up and down Sunset Boulevard, they're not raising the sidewalk. So, it makes me crazy when I hear the ficus is a bad tree. It's not a bad tree. It creates a ton of shade. So the problem is that if the ficus isn't watered, and it's actually a fairly drought tolerant tree, it doesn't need a whole lot of water, but needs enough not to lift the sidewalk. So when it doesn't rain, we need to pay attention to our trees. Some of them get groundwater. Now, this tree, this is very sad. This tree is gone. And this tree was a block from me. And there's no protection for private property trees that, originated by being planted. And we are hoping that planning and land use committees can start to ask, when they get demolitions, ask the person who is on the demolition form, what trees can you preserve when you build your property? Unfortunately, this is a beautiful single family home that is going to be turned into an apartment building. It's on Woodman Avenue in Irwin, and they just literally took out all the trees. I used it in my Vibrant LA Communities presentation when I showed the demolition there. So this is from that same property. They took out a ton of trees, and the neighbors complained, but we were not able to save them because there are no ordinances to save private property trees. And there's an incentive in the city to build, and there are grading regulations that force a lot of developers to take out all the trees.
So again, I would put this under the list of what can you do? Actually, with emphasis, big bold on the word actually, protect trees on private property. And that means more than just a few species of native trees.
Yes, and the native trees that are protected are mostly in the hills because they have to be naturally occurring. This tree was no doubt nursery stock and at one time. And it's a 70-foot tree. It's an amazing shade tree. It's a huge loss to the city.
Joanne, I'm sorry, Joanne, do you think everyone understands what the protected tree ordinance
we'll be getting to it. We're getting to it. Okay. So this is a construction site, and these trees were designated for removal. And they'll sometimes locate their driveways where the trees are instead of where it already is. Architects don't seem to care about what's in the way. Many times the architect has not even visited the site. In this case, it could be for staging and construction equipment, or as we found in that Koreatown site, DWP was adamant that their access be all along the most healthy trees on New Hampshire Boulevard. So that's, we're struggling with DWP. We're trying to have conversations with them. But so far in the past, they've always had their way as priority over any trees. And the more development we have, the more overdevelopment we have, the more trees will go. And it doesn't seem like the message about COVID and maybe we don't need so much development has gotten through to those in charge. This is park trees, which we also have in our city. And we don't get tree removal notices for park trees, only for street trees and protected trees. So private property trees, we never know when they're going to go. And these park trees are also up for grabs. And we're trying to get the park department, Rec and Parks, to tell us ahead of time when they plan to take out trees so that they have due process. This park is being sacrificed to the homeless to build tiny homes, 150 tiny homes. It was done as an emergency measure, and this park will be no more. It's in North Hollywood and Council District 2. This is public property trees. That's another situation we have. This is where the People Mover is going to go, the LAX People Mover, which is removing approximately 1,000 trees. And this is something that our CFAC rep for that area, for Council District 11, has been, trying to cope with, but and the neighborhood council has been very upset. But there was no real attempt to save the trees in this area prior to the design of the People Mover. So there is a replanting plan, but as you know, trees don't suddenly emerge full grown, giving shade, giving all the ecosystem services. So maybe 20 years from now, there will be a more verdant area, but can we hold our breaths that long? I don't know. All right, next slide. Let's see if there's something we want. Okay, there's another tree sacrifice. This is Grant High School. We tried very hard to save these redwood trees. This literally fell through the cracks. LAUSD did not do due process. They showed their plans without any tree indicators, and they tore these down to build buildings. And this was through one of those props for earthquake retrofit. And they decided that the little buildings that you see right there weren't worth saving. Let's tear them down and build a big building instead. And the big building they're building seems absurd because it's a library, and it really looks like a children's library. I mean, these days everybody is utilizing things online. Plus, this is right across the street from Valley College Library, and someone who went to this school tells me that that's the library they use. They don't need to have their own library. It's a much better one there. So this fell through the cracks of the Scott Schmerelson. He didn't realize this was happening. He really had egg on his face. And now he's being more tree conscious. So that's good. I heard him speak to save some trees in front of North Hollywood High School. So maybe he's gotten the memo. These are Caltrans trees. And Caltrans, we stopped Caltrans from taking out a lot of trees because they were shading the homeless on the side of the freeway. And I had to get a hold of Senator Hertzberg and plead our case to stop removing trees from the side of the freeway, but they did take out quite a few. This blue line, I think Don Dwiggins put in. I saw his name come up with it, so I don't know how to take it out.
And I have no idea how he managed to do that.
Yes. Okay. All right, so let me show you a piece of good work that's been done. This is the Dudek report, which we refer to as, and it's the first step toward developing an urban forest management plan for the city of Los Angeles. And this was done half through a CAL FIRE grant and half through the city donating the time of its head people that have anything to do with trees, plus representatives from council offices. And I actually represented neighborhood councils on this DUDEC report. It's a very good report, and I think Diana had a good idea that we should devote a trees committee meeting to it. It was written by the chair of CFAC, who was hired by the DUDEC consulting company to write the report, and it's really well done. And I have a link in the chat to it, so you can read it if you want. So this is one of our meetings. This is when we broke off into subgroups. That's me there, and that's another CFAC representative from CV2, Eugen Chen, who is an employee at Tree People. She has a PhD in urban forestry. This is Rachel Malerich on the far right. You'll recognize, who is our city forest officer. She was not at that time. This is Steve Dupre in the white shirt, who actually works for urban forestry. The crew cut sitting next to me is the policy director for council member Vizcaíno. And this is the policy subgroup of this 80-person working group. We all met in one room at City Hall. And we all gathered together to use the Vibrant City metrics and do a questionnaire, the score being optimal. And our city rated -1. We had failing scores. So that probably doesn't surprise you. So we need to remedy that. That's what our trees committee is advocating for. So on a personal level, what you can do is water your street tree. I have 2 videos that Diana provided in the chat on how to water a tree. This is using a soaker hose around the tree. And you can do this to your street tree. I do this. I put an orange cone with a hose out to the street tree, and I coil it around the street tree, and I, turn on the hose to drip for, a few hours. As long as it takes, you can put a screwdriver in and see how far down you've watered. And it's a good thing to do. And we need to encourage on Nextdoor more people to do this, because that's how we'll save a lot of our trees. And you can challenge tree removals. This one was saved, and this was, I think she's on the call today, the person who saved this tree. This is on Moore Park, and there was automatic street widening for the developer who tore down the structures on this property. And we have been actually trying to protest against this automatic street widening, and Councilmember Rue actually had a policy of not doing automatic widening, but I found that his person who instituted that is now working for Kevin De Leon, so I'm going to try to get that council district to adopt it. So anyway, this tree is saved. This is one of the few trees you'll see saved in this whole presentation. Okay, and then on Nextdoor, I mouth off when trees fall, or not just fall, but are taken down by neighbors. And unbelievable, look, I got 32 comments on that, because people just don't like trees to come down. These trees were taken out of my back. This is the neighbor to my backyard. So the fluffy greens are mine. And then on the other side of my trees, he took out all of those trees. And this is it in progress on the right. He took down all those tall Italian cypress. The birds used to land on the tops of them, all different kinds of birds. And unfortunately, there's not a tree left except a palm tree in his backyard now. So we need to educate our public, and that's one of the things that everyone can help do by utilizing social media. Okay, someone on the trees committee gave me this photo. She and Ruben fought to get Metro to remove their devices from under the drip lines of trees. That's actually illegal. They are not supposed to have equipment under trees. So when you see that, please report it to whomever, 311. You can get advice from some of us on the Trees Committee if you need it. Now, this is for Diana. This is something a neighborhood council can do. It's a community wildlife habitat. Go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I've done in my practice is I like to say build arcs for wildlife in people's backyards, utilizing the what do you call it? The certified wildlife habitats. And one of the things that the city could do is encourage certified wildlife habitats. And now what we are seeing in other places in the country and in Florida, I think leads the way with about a dozen community certified wildlife habitats. The reason this is important is because I think it was, is Dr. Longcore on this call? I don't see him here, but I'm not seeing everybody. I think he had some.
I'm here.
Hi there. Didn't you have some students who did a research surrounding these certified wildlife habitats, and they found that there was a larger percentage of tree canopy or trees on the properties that had these certified wildlife habitats?
Yeah, absolutely. The two things go together. And I just wanted to add the city's biodiversity initiative in City San has actually gone forward and is trying to enroll all of Los Angeles in the Certified Wildlife Habitat Program, and would desperately like more people to get their habitat certified, because LA will then, when it reaches a certain threshold, the whole city will be certified. So they're actually pursuing that now.
That's great. Thank you. So this is a wonderful thing we should be looking into, Joanne and others, but you can also work in your own community, whether it's, house by house, but work on this community wildlife habitat program. And for those that don't know, I mean, basically what you're doing is you're providing the 4 items that are necessary to be certified, which is, wildlife needs food, it needs water, it needs cover and places to raise its young. And this is a wonderful program. And like I said, entire communities in other cities are doing it. I looked and I saw one in all of California, and that was down in the San Diego area. As far as the community wildlife habitats, clearly there's individual wildlife habitats, but this is a great thing to encourage. I'm glad to hear, Travis. I'd like to get more information about what you said. But again, it comes back to where they have these wildlife habitats. I've seen it in my own practice. You see the larger shrub and tree canopy than I do in properties that don't have them.
Yeah, things grow better and they're natives. It's a whole deal with natives. Trees and plants. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the political stuff. So this there'll be a link in the chat for this. This is LA City Clerk Connect. I hope anyone who's on a neighborhood council should be familiar with this, but one of the things you may not have realized, actually Diana told me, was that you can do a keyword search. So you can put trees in and you can see what ordinances have passed having to do with trees. Right now, believe it or not, there are no ordinances pending for trees. The last one that we were waiting for was passed in December, the Protected Tree Amendment, and there are none for trees per se right now. There's some that affect trees, but the word tree is not in them. If they have to deal with development, they often have to do with trees. But there are reports pending, and that's something to consider. So I'm going to go over some of the the motions that have passed recently. But before I do that, there is one that you can do a CIS on that is a development one. So these are brand new state bills, Scott Wiener bills, if you know that person's name. So he is the pro-development advocate in Sacramento. He's from San Francisco, and he just keeps coming up with one bill after another. And SB 9, Senate Bill 9 allows up to 8 units on a single family lot, 6 of them by right. Now that's pretty shocking. Now this hasn't passed, but you can fight it. SB 10 upends all protected lands for development. That means shorelines, anywhere, everything is up for grabs for development. So hopefully these won't pass, but it does take some fight. I have some links in the chat for these. Oops, sorry. And Livable California has been quite vocal in fighting these. Now, Councilmember Koretz put in a council file against SB 10 already. It's brand new. You can see it has a 21. That means it was put in already this year. And you can look that one up and do a CIS against it, against SB 10, but for Council File 21-002S21. It doesn't mention trees per se, but it's against letting the protected lands be up for grabs for development. So it's a good thing to do. So here's what's happening. This tree was removed to build a driveway for an ADU. So that was something that, you know, and I think the trees in front of the house were also taken out. It's kind of made a parking lot in front of this house. The owner came from New York, and this is what he did in our city. He's trying to turn our city into Manhattan. So there was no room when a property owner or developer wants to remove a street tree, which this Canary Island pine is, they're supposed to replant 2-to-1. And of course he had no room to replant 2-to-1 due to his driveway. So now we have this other council file that passed, 160461, which is the in lieu fee. We fought this and we didn't win, but now they're calling the in lieu fee the tree guarantee fee. So this is the tree removal notice for that Canary Island pine on Meadowbrook Avenue. And you can see that to replant the 2 trees, to replant the 2 trees, $267. That's what his fee is going to be. And I want you to know that my council member was the only one that voted no on the in lieu fee because he said the fees were too low. Because how can you, you know, why would we want to subsidize the removal of a tree like that? But we are. So this is something we need to fight. These are the fees if it's not a residential property, they're higher. These are not subsidized, but the one for 4 units or less is subsidized. Now, where do they replant these trees, you may ask? Okay, this is Council File 1604-61S1, and this tells us where they're going to replant. Now, if they remove a tree, the only obligation they have is to replant the tree. This UFD replants the tree in their own way, which we saw in an earlier slide, and they plant it on a certain spot that they designate in the council district. So in Council District 4, which includes Sherman Oaks, if trees get removed in Sherman Oaks, they're going to be replanted on Wilton. Oops, sorry. So 70 until there's 74 trees between Melrose and Olympic. So that's the plan, and the reason for that is that they're trying to water these trees, and in order to water them, they need them near other trees that have been planted by LA San. So they've already got a watering program going on in the area. So this is another kind of unfair thing. I mean, the council people were trying to keep the trees in their district, but these districts have been gerrymandered and they're all over the place. So then once they fulfill 74 trees in District 4, then they'll pick another street.
Joanne, somebody asked Joanne where they could find that information?
It's going to be in the chat. All of these are in the chat. I wish I had put the chat in first. I meant to. I have it cut and paste, and I can just paste them all in at once. So
but I think the point is that they're planting, you're losing streets, you're losing trees. This is in reference to city trees, parkway trees, right, Joanne? You're losing those trees, and then they're being planted. The replacements are being planted off-site somewhere.
Right.
So for the community, the local neighborhood or community that lost those trees, there's an impact to that.
That's right. And so, you know, these are being planted on the whole other side of the hill from Sherman Oaks. Now, admittedly, maybe that's more of an environmental justice area, but it's still a loss from where that tree was taken. And normally they do try to replant in the same area, but with the way development is happening, there often isn't. And as you follow the tree removal notices, you will see that of these tree guarantee fees. So this is to let you know what that means when you get a tree removal notice. And if you're on a neighborhood council, you will be getting them if you haven't gotten them already. So now another council file, 13-1339, passed in December, adding the Toyon and Mexican elderberry to the protected trees ordinance. Protected trees are usually in the hills or on undeveloped properties where naturally occurring trees exist. They are not street trees, and the protected tree ordinance as it is now says they have to be replanted on site and replanted 2-to-1, though they try to plant 4-to-1 these days. So the Toyon provides food to wildlife. It's a native tree. It's usually a bush, but it can be a tree, as you can see in this picture. It has these red berries. And the Mexican elderberry is this tree. And it's also sometimes a bush. And
Shrub.
Sorry, yeah, shrub. And Diana will tell you that these occur with other native trees. You want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, the Toyon and the elderberry tend to be in our hillside communities and some other places as well. It's not just the hillside communities, but in the areas where native vegetation hasn't been removed already, they tend to live in communities, and those communities have relationships with each other. So I see a picture here. And so you will often see Toyons with oak trees and walnut trees, also protected trees. The problem is, I read this slide and not what does it mean to protect a tree, but what does it mean when all you do when you see a woodland like that is protect the trees. But let's be clear here, the protected tree ordinance only includes a small number of native species, and it does not prevent them from being cut down for development. And I just want to make sure, because I hear a lot of people being a lot of confusion surrounding that. The protected tree ordinance does not protect trees from being cut down for development, not even the trees on the protected list. You know, we need to kind of work to solve that by protecting more species of trees, including non-native trees and those protections, but then figuring out how we actually protect them from being cut down for development.
Yeah, we're gonna.
You know, this, I know, Joanne, you don't want to get into this, your picture of a woodland. I think that's a discussion for a committee meeting where we talk about how woodlands are protected, because one thing the city is missing is a woodland protection ordinance.
Right, and this is what we're going to talk about on January 30th. We're going to have a trees committee meeting, and we're going to have more program content at our trees committee meeting, and I put them on Saturdays so people who work can more easily attend. We used to meet during the week, and what I'm suggesting is that we do a dive into what it means, because the protected trees, it's sort of a misnomer, and the city is actually resetting the fees for protected trees, and I think they're actually having a hard time because we've asked them to charge more to remove a tree, and they're having a hard time figuring out what to base it on. So we'll get into that more in a couple of weeks, but I wanted you to have that meeting notice. And we'll send it out to everyone who is signed up or will signed up for the trees committee.
Terrific. Joanne, this is Ernie, just a quick time check. It's about 8:11 now, so we probably have about 9 more minutes to present our Q&A.
We'll be good.
Okay.
We're on slide 33, and we have 40 some slides, so we'll be fine. This is
Joanne, I just want to point out there are people with their hands raised, and so I think we're going to allot some time for conversation.
Okay. All right. So maybe what we can do is, after you do your announcements, do some of the Q&A afterwards if people want to stay. I have a little bit more to get through here. So Council File 03-1459 is very important because it asked for community tree advocates to get together and come up with better tree protection. And this has been put in the lap of Rachel Mallarich, and she's a new city forest officer. She's been on the job about, I don't know, a little over a year. And she's been talking to a lot of us about what to do. And she has a lunch meeting that anyone can attend. Go to her website, that's in the chat, and it's on January 13th. That's this Wednesday. Okay. And we're really giving her a lot of input. So you can bring your input to the trees committee and we'll pass it on to her. We're still in the process right now. This is the tree inventory. And what I want to show you is how it kind of works. So if you select this tree, it'll tell you it's a coast live oak and its address. And this is being conducted by Davey, which is a professional tree inventory company. And you can, there's a link for this in the chat. It's on the Streets LA website. And you can zoom in and find any tree that's been inventoried. This is in North Hollywood. And these are all the neighborhood council areas that have had their inventories done. Others have not had theirs done yet. Koreatown was just finished, and I know Elizabeth has some problems with it. So we're going to be looking into that. And mine was just done, but it's not posted. So if you want to be told when yours will be done, you can go to this link, which I put in the chat, and you can mark which one you want to know about. And at the bottom of this page, which you can't see here, you can put your email address and they'll let you know when your inventory is done. And they're supposed to come out and do a presentation. You can request it, and someone from from Streets LA will do a presentation for your neighborhood council.
Joanne, just a few seconds before you move on out of there.
Yeah.
I just want to also coming, we fought for tree inventory for a long time. I'm happy to see it. We all are, because you can't make goals and plan and until you know what you got. But the tree inventory, unfortunately, that the city is doing is lacks transparency. It should link to 311, and in other cities where they have this same public facing inventory, you get to click on that tree and it tells you everything you need to know about the tree health, when it was last watered, you know, anytime somebody does anything, touches that tree. And we're not going to see that with this current iteration of the tree inventory.
The city
This is
attorney
a
has
big,
blocked
big failure.
City attorney has blocked our having that public knowledge. So you can only find it out with a public records request. And if you want to do it, I have the information on how to do it. And this is our tree removals on the NCSA website. We've been doing this for 3 years. And you can see when we got it, they're in the order in which we get them, with the most recent on top. And a little bit of comment from me will tell you what, like here I say the sidewalk should actually meander to save important trees. And you'll see a photo from Google Maps. This is that one. And we fought to save these trees and we lost. So it's really sad, those eucalyptus trees. We need to figure out some better ways with the city on a street that's not very populated, to find ways to actually even take part of the street or part of this frontage area of the home to meander the sidewalk or bump out with the tree well so that there's more room. But right now there's not a lot of will or money to do that. So they just pay their $801 and the trees are gone. This is the email that you get when there's a tree removal in your neighborhood council area. We fought for this with CFAC and we got this. So Dunn will send you a notice when there's a tree removal and it's in your area, and it's up to you to, you know, challenge it if you want. And you can get designated by your neighborhood council to be the challenger of tree removals. There isn't time, you have to act fast. So there isn't time for you to actually have neighborhood council meetings unless you set up special meetings, which the Koreatown Neighborhood Council actually did. Was amazing in having special meetings for tree removals. And when you have that, you have more time to speak at the Board of Public Works if there are more than 2 trees. If there's more than 2 trees, the Board of Public Works puts them on this list, and you can see here, these are the dates for their hearings. And if you click on these numbers for the tree, it'll take you to a place to register to be told when the hearing will be. Unfortunately, the information that you need for that hearing is only available the day before. And there's usually a ton of information that could have really helped you with your challenge had you had it sooner. CFAC has written a letter asking for this information to be ready sooner for the public, but we've gotten no response. This is something I think we've succeeded with. They're not trimming trees like this anymore. We balked and Urban Forestry got rid of all their subcontractors that were doing this kind of trimming. And if you can call it that, destruction, canopy destruction. So now the buck stops at Urban Forestry.
Can I chime in a
yes,
second
please.
here?
Yeah,
I mean, I hope that's true, Joanne. We still see this kind of over trimming of trees in private property where the majority of our trees are on a
Yes.
regular basis, and I'm still seeing it. You don't forget, we have apartment complexes that hack up their trees in even parkways. We have businesses that hack up their trees because they want their signage to be viewable
Yes, and I think if you live in an apartment building, I think you should interact with your management there to take care of their trees better.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's
we definitely need a better tree trimming policy all around.
right.
I want to just say this because there's a lot of confusion about the amount of live canopy that should be pruned. A lot of people throw out this 25% rule. Just to be clear, 12%, so about half of 25%, is the maximum that you should be removing from a mature, healthy tree's live canopy. The 25% is the maximum you should be removing from a juvenile or immature young tree, which is done because you might be wanting to train that tree. Training has to do with picking a leader branch, etc., which is actually really important for parkway trees and street trees. So that we're way above that in the city of LA if we're already trimming trees at 25% or above. And by doing that, we cause hazardous trees. We're also reducing the ecosystem services that tree would provide by taking out the live canopy.
And this look at the amount of shade. You see that when this tree goes, what's going to happen? All right.
That tree was malpruned, by the way. That's why it looks like that. Joanne, wasn't there something else about that tree?
No, that's it. It's going. That's
it's going to be cut down?
Yeah, I think if not already, it's already been cut down.
Joanne and Diane, thank you for this great presentation. Just want to be respectful of folks' time. As you mentioned, Joanne, I think we just want to make the opportunity available for.
I have 3 more slides, Ernie. Let me get through them really fast, okay? The Community Forest Advisory Committee, the meetings are open to the public. This is me getting sworn in, but please do come to those meetings because it gives you the opportunity to actually be in the same Zoom with city officials and hear what they have to say, and you do get to make public comment. Look at the Treology and other blogs. This is Diana's blog. It's really got some excellent information. Be aware when you're on planning and land use, you can see this old building and what they've done with the new building. No room for trees, took away the parkway. This building, this little building on the right got removed and the tree went with it. So this is my last slide, which is this tree also went. This is at Sunset Strip. And this is what we need to do. We need creative ways to try to save these with not just the kind of policies we currently have. We need better policies. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me get to the end, Ernie.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was wonderful. I'm actually hopeful that we can have a little bit more time for Q&A, but I just wanted to get past the announcement section first, and then Lisa, if there's a way that we can stay on a few more minutes for Q&A, that would be great.
And I'm going to put those links in the chat now. I'm going to take this down, stop the screen share, and put those in the chat.
Terrific. So yeah, thank you again. We'll come back to for Q&A in just a moment. But in the meantime, are there any announcements that are neighborhood council or sustainability related that anyone would like to share at this time? Just raise your hand using the raise hand feature to let us know, and or give us some other type of indication. Yes, Lisa, please.
I have a couple announcements, and I'm not sure if we should go through. The problem is the people whose hands are raised were raised before, so I'm not sure. I guess if you're raising your hand recently, I might notice, so I'll try to catch those. 2 things I wanted to share. One is I'll put it in the chat. We do have our next workshop on EVs is the 27th, so I just put a link to the chat in that. And one thing I want to be sensitive to, I've always learned so much from Joanne and Diana. I do want to point out that we have a really wide range of beliefs and attitudes in the Alliance. And a lot of the positions that Joanne and Diana were stating are their own, and they're not necessarily the trees committees or the NCSAs. And I'm speaking particularly about the issues regarding density and development, because this is a really, really, really complex issue that we need to be delving into more. But there are lots of us on the board and in the alliance that are probably are more pro density to a degree and development to a degree than might appear from this presentation. So I just want to say that because I know, because I think it's important to acknowledge the diversity in the group. So do you want me to try to go through? Let's see. Okay, I don't see other new hands raised, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there aren't so many announcements.
Right. I think the only other thing is just a quick reminder. Our next monthly meeting will be on February 21st, Sunday, February 21st, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. You'll be able to register just like you did for this meeting on our website, ncsa.la. And you can't register right now because the registration hasn't been created, but it should be created by February. So once February rolls around, you'll have about 3 weeks before the 21st to register. And we hope to see you there. I don't have anything further, and if no one else does, let's get back to Joanne and Diana.
Or we should get back to the people who have been raising their hands for about an hour, I think.
Yes, yes.
So there was, I think her name was Mindy, but I think she's gone. Let's go to Brandy.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, so Joanne knows because we've communicated on this, but I've been seeing a lot of butt rot on the trees. And not only are they not being removed, the stumps are being left diseased in the ground to continue to infect the ground. I have communicated with Rachel Malarich too, and she wants to start creating a database of where they are. But that's another issue, is that if the ground is left diseased, we're not going to be able to replant in the areas that we had to take a tree out.
Yeah, and that Sunny Slope area, there was a lot of ground rot and mold on the new trees where the new trees are growing. So that was a big disappointment to the residents there that had hoped for a lot more from their new trees. I think they were kind of sold a bill of goods by the council office that it would be nice there, and they were very upset. So yeah, I think that really is part of Rachel's urban forestry management plan, to figure out how they can use better soil and, you know, not let things go to rot like that. That's a very good point.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Barbara. Sorry if I'm not doing this in order, I'm multitasking.
I put in the chat, this is Barbara Brady from Westside Neighborhood Council and Coalition for Scenic Los Angeles. I put information in the chat about the city's consideration of revisions to the sign ordinance. Some of you are familiar with billboards because trees have been chopped down that threaten the visibility of billboards in our city many times. But I want to call your attention to it because the city, the Plum Committee has made significant revisions to what was a very well balanced sign ordinance, version B+ that was adopted by the City Planning Commission. And over the last 8 years under Chairman Huizar and Plum, they have significantly weakened and destroyed a good sign ordinance, which now under the current revision ordered by Plum would allow billboard companies to free their billboards from sign districts and place them on commercial corridors and corridors with M zones by a method known as relocation. So they'll take an old billboard, say, I want to relocate it and modernize it, and that will suddenly morph into a digital billboard. There are issues with digital billboards related to energy use, night sky pollution, health impacts. They make life near them pretty miserable because it's like living next to a strobe light 24/7. And they're horrible when it comes to driver distraction, endangering pedestrians and bicyclists, particularly in the streets. So it's an important issue. It's council number file 11-1705.
And unfortunately, the staff has prepared a report at the instruction of the Plum Committee, but will not hold a public hearing on it before the comments are due on January 29. And I understand it's being fast-tracked to the City Planning Commission before the end of February. So people need to get on this, and if you need help with it, please get in touch with me. The other thing is that Streets LA has issued an RFP for a new contract offering for street furniture. Some of you are familiar with the bus shelters that have advertisements and the three-sided billboards that are put on sidewalks that are known as public amenity kiosks. That contract expires next year in December. They're also proposing digital bus shelters and also ability to track people's privacy. So there are a lot of sign issues. Metro wants to put digital billboards on their land to raise money to offset their fair revenue losses. And this affects birds, it affects humans, lots of bad impacts. And once the billboard goes up, I hate to say, it's forever. So I hope you will care or find someone in your neighborhood council who can get involved in this, track it, and pass community impact statements. There will be some samples on the Coalition for Scenic LA's website. Thank you. So, and also, it was in the state legislation, one of the worst impacts.
Barbara, it's hard to hear you. Can you get closer to the mic, please?
I'm almost on top of it. One of the worst impacts of one of Wiener's bills that was discussed earlier is that it would nullify initiatives passed by the voters of the state of California and allow the legislators in Sacramento to overrule them. That is a terrible, dangerous precedent, which in my mind makes that measure unacceptable no matter what it does or doesn't do. So that was, Stacy, is it SB? That's SB 10, not SB 9. And then the other thing, I mean, they don't create affordable housing, which is a big problem. To enable more luxury housing is not solving our problems here. So,
Yeah, 9 and 10 have no affordable housing.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Very quickly, I think during the announcements, I forgot to mention, please take a moment to complete the evaluation form. This was our first monthly meeting. We wanted to set a baseline of how the meeting should be conducted going forward, but we still want to get your feedback on what you would like to see and how we can do better. So please take a moment to complete the evaluation today so you can provide us with your feedback. And I see that we also have Elizabeth with her hand up. And by the way, the eval is linked in the chat. Elizabeth, are you there?
So I just wanted to bring up.
Elizabeth, we can't hear you now. Can you do something different? Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Not better, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to bring up and that people should definitely look at the reports that are coming out regarding the trees. As Joanne mentioned, Wilshire Center, Koreatown, I can't find it on internet, but apparently in December through Twitter, our tree survey was put out, but it wasn't on the Streets LA website for what I could find. But you know, for example, they said that we have some like a huge percentage of filled, and it's exactly what Joanne's been saying, that that we're being told that parkways are too narrow to have trees. Now the question what I think people here need to start doing is we need to start documenting just when you're walking your dog, when you're walking around, and I've started doing this. Look at the parkways. Where are there circular indentations, which really designate that there used to be a tree well? Where are there, if there's concrete, where are there circular, different color concrete so that you know it's newer concrete? Again, the circle generally designates a tree well. Areas where there's no tree, but there's old roots that you can clearly see in the ground. So all of these, it's very unclear if these are counted as where we have areas that have like, that could have trees, whether they were narrow or not. At one point in time, they definitely did have trees. And so I would definitely encourage everyone to please take those types of photos and start documenting things like that. And if anyone else has suggestions, please just share that in the chat as well.
Thank you. Richard Rockman, your hand is up. Are you there?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Great.
Hi, so I'm a graduate student and planning ecologist at Cal State Northridge. I'm also the biodiversity coordinator at the Sustainability Institute for CSUN. So my question involves invasive tree species. I guess I'm not going to like single out the species that I'm thinking about, but there are a handful of species that I've seen not only in this presentation, but on streets that end up spilling over into native oak woodland, chaparral, and coastal sage scrub. And I'm sure Dr. Longcore might have some thoughts on this, but does the committee have any sort of interest in like not advancing like these tree species that have the potential to spilling into our wildlands? Or are we just more interested in canopy cover, I guess is my question.
I would answer that, Richard. And I'd love to, Dr. Longcore to answer it. But from my perspective, yes, I'm very concerned about the species that are being selected right now. They're going through that process at the city with Rachel Mallarich. And I've encouraged the committee and CFAC to get ahead of this and actually look into our own tree species list. And there are the ones that I've seen, there are invasive species on that list I'm concerned about.
Okay, I'm going to go to Rosalind.
Hi, thanks for the great presentation. I have two questions. The first one is regarding ordinances for trees on private property. Have you guys been looking at comparative ordinances in other cities, whether in the US or in other countries where trees on private property are protected?
Yeah, we actually have asked Rachel to seriously consider what's going on in Pasadena because they protect maybe I think they have 20 something on their list, and they also protect trees of a certain diameter at breast height. So if you have a serious tree on your property, it's protected. So that's actually one of the better thoughts and it's sort of accessible for her. I mean, Melbourne has some really good ideas. They were in bad shape, and now they've really fixed their problem quite a bit. So yes, we are encouraging the looking at others. We're not doing the actual deep dive ourselves because we're advocates, but we certainly are, the private property trees are protected in Pasadena. And so we're trying to use that model.
Great. And my second question is about the budget that Governor Newsom just released for consideration, with $500 million going to infill housing and the proposal to create a housing accountability unit to make sure that cities meet their requirements for producing more housing. So I don't know if that's something, I just want to ask, is that on your radar yet for making sure that urban forests are going to be a part of those infill housing plans?
Well, there's a, there's a feeling, policy, whatever you want to call it, that there isn't sufficient housing, and infill housing, all of this sort of thing, ADUs, they're really problematic to trees. And on a one-by-one basis, in my neighborhood council, when someone's putting in an ADU, if it's not by right, if they're tearing down something, well, the ADU is by right, but if they're tearing down something like a garage or so forth, I contact them and say, can you hang on to your trees? And that's the best I can do on that level. On the government level, they're going to have to realize that this density that they're trying to produce is not really conducive to health. I mean, the whole point of this presentation that we just did is that the health of the city will be meaningless if we're all sick with respiratory diseases from what's been going on by the lack of you know, the ecosystem services of trees, and we have bad air, bad heat, you know, and so forth. What good is it going to be to have all this dense housing? You know, unfortunately, they're building so much luxury housing that we run out of room for you know, building affordable housing. And the truly sad thing that I'm really trying to fight more than anything is the tear downs of affordable housing, because there was a proposition that you know, the rent control expired, and now a policy, the rent control expired, and now they're allowed to tear down a lot of buildings that house a lot of modest income units. And what's happening is that they tear down the building and the trees, and then they build market rate. And many times there's no affordable housing, or there's a few. The percentages are dysfunctional when they only build a very, very small percentage of affordable housing. So the whole thing, you know, one of my big personal bones of contention is city planning. There's 400 and some employees, and they really are there to service the developers. They're not planning for a good city. You know, if they played SimCity as a child, they forgot it. So, I mean, you know, and Dick Plotkin has written great articles about the problems with planning. So I think it's on every level. The state, we have a lot of problems coming down from Sacramento, and then LA has built 100% of its RENA, 100%. So, you know, we could stop building. I mean, you know, so I know Lisa disagrees with me on this, but what's going to happen is that the city's going to become unhealthful. And what I listened to Koretz on Saturday, talking to Livable California for hours. He spoke for 3 hours, and he said, you know, it's really very depressing that we're not considering what's happened with COVID, that we're actually doing things that on the marching orders of Sacramento that are detrimental to our city. So I know that was a rant, but
can I just say something? I think the point is, from my perspective, you know, working with the Trees Committee and other organizations worried about green cover, is that in all of this, what we're seeing is that there's talk about growth without much consideration for our ecosystem and what we need to have for a functioning urban ecology for human health and, you know, like, I hate to use the word livable city, but for our own human health and comfort. And that's really what we talk about a lot is, you know, why isn't that happening at the, I mean, state level, at the city level? There's just not enough consideration. We have all of these ways to work around it. There's lots of solutions. We're missing the goals. We haven't even decided what a healthy canopy should be for our city. And so that's really what I would say is that, you know, is it Rosalind? Did you ask that question? Yeah.
And people are leaving, you know, people are our population has decreased. I mean, it is documented.
Yeah.
So, you know, what are we doing? If we have a housing problem, that means we have too much market rate housing.
So I think that's a good topic for a future meeting, and I think we need to have this discussion. We are about 15 minutes over time almost right now, and I saw 3 hands up. Let's make this the lightning round. So what I'll ask is that Elizabeth, Karen, and Philip, let's get your questions out now, and then if Joanne, Diana, and anyone else could just take notes of the questions, and then you'll be able to answer all three questions, and that way we can conclude and everyone can get their questions out. So Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to note, and I've been trying to find it, but I can try and find it. I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it's Mar Vista, but community plans can also be a way for us to impact tree policy on private properties. There's nothing stopping us from stating and defining, and there is a community plan, I'm trying to find it, that LA does have a single community plan, only one, that talks about maintaining and needing to get a permit to take down a tree on private property. You just need to say what is a substantive, and it's based a lot on what Pasadena has, like what size tree it is, and that it is that the tree is contributing to the community, not just that one person's land. And so as a lot of community plans are coming through, I think it's really important that everybody be involved in that process and that we get tree protections in our community plans for both private and public properties.
Excellent. Very good point. Thank you. Gwendolyn, are you ready to pose your question or make your comment?
Yeah, sure. Well, this came up with Travis Longcore's map and the reference to the protected species. Is it possible to guerrilla plant some of these protected species, or does it have to already be a recorded tree or species on their inventory for that to count? I mean,
good question. We'll come back to that in just a moment. And then Philip, do you want to make your question now or pose your comment? Philip, are you still with us?
Philip, I muted you a long time ago. Sorry. You got to unmute yourself.
Going once, going twice.
I can try to unmute you if you can't do it.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Wait, you did it, but then you undid it. How do we?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. I'm actually on the call with the phone as well because my internet is not strong.
That's what I was asked to mute.
So.
Mute one or the other.
I want to mute.
There you go.
And now we can't hear him. But
now we can't hear you. You have to mute the other one.
No, I can unmute you. No, I have to ask you to unmute.
No, you can unmute him. You
no,
did
it says ask to unmute. I can't, maybe because he's on the phone. Oh, it says mute, so now he's unmuted. It's done, you can go. Oops. Well, you're unmuted on my end.
Do *6. *6 on the phone or?
Well, we're just going to be left wondering, really wondering.
There you go.
There he goes. No. I think he should unmute this computer and mute the phone.
Yeah, I agree, but.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about this. It took everyone's time. I just wanted to make a comment about something that Joanne said about the overall problem with density, which I strongly disagree with. I was involved in the development guidelines that we did. We're still working on. I don't think that, we have reached the point where density, is just inherently unhealthy. And, we can create a healthy city. We do need density in order to reduce our emissions for greenhouse emissions. Basically, we need to. I agree that we need to reduce the McMansions and the expensive buildings, but we need to really attack the problem of transportation, and we need to locate our amenities close to where we live, our schools and everything, stores, And we need to build our city in a way that we can commute without using cars and get rid of the parking spaces. Then we'll have spaces for greenery and trees and so on.
Well, that may work in the future, but what they've discovered now, especially with COVID, is that people don't want to be on public transportation. And I just spent the last 4.5 years working to put people on public transportation, so I'm really familiar with it. And it's an issue that isn't going to be resolved in this generation. I think maybe in a future generation, but at the moment, people still want to drive cars. And while that's what, if that's the case, and that's what really right now is the distinction between poverty and non-poverty, is whether you have a vehicle. So it's a difficult area. And what we're saying is that, for now, we really have to have space for trees. I actually support Portantino's bill that repurposes a lot of existing structures into housing. So, and I really favor that.
I think we're presenting a false choice here, and I just want to echo Lisa and Philip, because all of the available research shows that we have a huge housing crisis in this city and this state. The shortage of affordable housing in our city is driving people into homelessness. And so I think the notion that these things are incompatible is unfortunate and problematic, because Philip is absolutely right that sprawl leads to carbon emissions. UC Berkeley has done studies on infill housing. In most central zip codes in Los Angeles, they found that infill housing was perhaps the most important strategy for reducing carbon emissions. So there's a lot of evidence on the importance, the linkage between how we design our cities, as Philip said, and how sustainable our cities are. And I don't think that has to come at the expense of urban canopy, which I care deeply about. So look, I know that this is a difficult conversation. I just think it's important to have some other viewpoints on the other side, because there's actually a lot of smart people that have looked at this and have seen the strong links between housing policy and climate policy. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Scott. And like I mentioned earlier, I think this is a very good topic for the future that we should all be delving into. And so thank you everyone for sharing those ideas. We should all take them into consideration and hopefully help us think about these issues more holistically and comprehensively, because it's not a cookie cutter approach that's going to work. We're going to have to give it a lot of thought, and there's probably a right answer in something that everyone said in the right situation. And there are probably the wrong answers in the wrong situation. So we'll focus more on that going forward, and I hope that you were part of those discussions. One final question, which I don't think anybody answered Gwendolyn's question, maybe it was answered in the chat. What about this idea of guerrilla planting these species of trees that are that we want to get more of out there?
Diana, do you want to answer that? I mean, if you can care for the tree, guerrilla plant it, yes, but you've got to care for it. You got to water it. I don't know if she's still.
Can I make a suggestion? A lot of these issues really overlap into my planning and land use committee. I make a strong suggestion that each of our sustainability folks invite a planning and land use representative to join this meeting.
That's
I'm one. I mean, I'm chair of my planning and land use committee.
That's good. A lot of us are here.
We have a liaison, and she actually, I don't know her very well, but she actually reached out just within the past week and asked about our meetings and said she wanted to join, and she couldn't join tonight, but I agree with you. Thank you. And so I think we'll be doing that better going forward.
Right. Thank you so much again, everyone who participated today. Joanne D'Antonio for a very valuable and informative presentation. Diana, Nicole, also for contributing once again. It's great to hear from you, and everyone else that we had the pleasure of listening from today. Please join us again on February 21st, 6:30. Register on our website, ncsa.la. And if you haven't already copied the chat or filled out an evaluation, please take a moment to do that now if you wish. And otherwise, have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys. And thank you guys for hanging in there for an extra half hour. That shows.
Yeah, all the stuff's in the chat. So save the chat before you go. I put all the links in there.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.
Bye.
Where's the evaluation link?
Oh, I can put it back in. I've put it in a few times and Ernie put it in once, but let me.
Put it at the bottom?
Well, yeah, that's just where it goes, but let me do it again. Let's see if will that work? I think that'll work. Because we do want the evaluation. So whoever asked, I really appreciate the question.
It's Barbara. I got
Thank
tired.
you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Oops, I sent it to just one person, which is not helpful. Let me send it to everybody. Okay, I put it in one more time for you folks.
Thank you.
Okay, does everybody who wants it, have it?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to close out, and I don't remember if you guys will be cut off when I do this, but in case you are, I hope you all have a lovely night. Bye. Oh, I'm ending meeting for everybody. You guys ready for me to do that? I could just leave the meeting if you don't want me to. Nobody's answering, so I'm going to end it for everybody. Miran is giving me permission. Thank you, Miran. Here we go.
Lisa, just so you know, if you had a co-host and you left, the meeting would continue. But since you don't have a co-host, when you end it, it ends for everyone.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. And I'm saying that I have two options. I can end the meeting for all or leave the meeting. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, you could, but you take the meeting with you unless you have a co-host to carry the meeting on.
Except I can just leave and I think I not leave and end it for everybody.
Okay, well, you can test it out, but I'm just telling you that's what we have to make sure our neighborhood council meetings that we don't, if we have internet connectivity issues and you don't have a co-host, that's not good.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to end it for everybody because I think that we're all okay with that. But there are two options on this one. You know what, it might be because I'm not in a webinar. I know you guys always use webinars.
No, we always have those two options as well.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you were
Lisa, what you may want to do is try leaving the meeting and seeing if the rest of us stay on.
Yeah, but then I realized I won't know.
Well, I can
We'll
go
tell
later.
you. We'll tell you.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. And then good night, you guys. Yeah, let me
night.
know. Bye. Oh, wait. Oh, I have to assign a new host to do that.
Ah,
This
there
is
we
what
are.
I'm talking about.
Goodbye.
Okay. Glenn, do you want to be host or should I just end it for everybody?
Oh, I can hang
think-
on. Or Gwen.
Or Gwen, I can do it. I can make you the host, Gwen.
Sure.